Talking today now with Sara Prodoni, who works with the Acquired Brain Injury Ireland, and also Jacqueline Moore, who works with Care Alliance. And you're both very, very welcome to talk to us here at Disability Matters.
Thank you very much, Sean.
Thanks, John.
So I think the project stems from a thing called On With Life. So you might tell us a little bit about that if you don't mind.
That's fine, John. So yeah, the On With Life program, um, training and employment building brighter future. It's part of a service that we provide in Acquired Brain Injury Ireland, and really is to look after the family members of a loved one with an acquired brain injury. We do recognise that as a brain injury is different for everyone, same as a family cares. So the On With Life has a three-strand, the On With Life for an adult, looking after an adult of a brain injury, and then we have the support for the parents under 18, and then the training and employment. So it's a three-strand service, and really is just there to support all the family members.
How did you end up in a project like this together?
Okay, so the Care in Workplace initiative really was set up really to support employers really to attract and retain employees that are also family carers. We've been working, and same as Carers Alliance Ireland, we've been working with family carers for many, many years.
Yeah.
We've been working with them to support them returning to education, training and employment, or maybe for a career change as a result of the caring role. And through really working with family carers over the years, we've been made aware that how often family carers feel isolated and overwhelmed in the workplace. And that's why these initiative really, it was created, because these feelings really, what do they lead? It leads to decreased productivity, decreased job satisfaction, which in turn leads to high turnover. So we came together, because we want to help employer address this issue.
Very good. And Jacqueline,
And
you might tell us how you got involved.
yeah, so we have a similar program in Care Alliance called Reemerge, and it's been running for a few years. And so we support carers who are interested in going back to work or education, and we collaborate with ABI, and we decided that, well, the two of us together, through working with carers over the years, have gained, I suppose, knowledge and insight into what carers really need going back to work, and what they need from employers in that space. So we felt that we had a lot in common, and a lot of, between the two of us, we had a lot of experience. So that's why we came together to collaborate on this particular initiative.
It's a huge step for carer coming back into employment.
Huge, John. And what we find is that it is a transition and it's a journey. And so carers, so some people may have been out of work or education for a long time. Some people may have never had the chance to work or study, and some people may have been out for a shorter period of time. So there's a wide spectrum there. So a lot of kind of different types of needs. But generally, what we find is what really happens to everybody, regardless of, how long you've been out of work, is that their confidence level really drops. And, it can take a lot to get that back. And there's also, like, we can talk about it, but there's also the piece about, well, how do I explain the gap in my CV? Or do I admit that I was caring? Or do I like brush over that? And then since COVID, it's kind of like, has the employment landscape or study, has it changed? Like, how with all working from home, and there's all of that kind of fear of that. So there's a lot to be navigated, and there's a lot of fears in that. So it definitely is a transition, and it requires, I suppose, a mix of practical things like how to do a CV, how to do an interview, but also kind of managing managing the stress, managing the anxiety about going back. Will I be able to manage? You know, especially if I'm still caring, and how much do I suppose, talk to my manager about that? So there's a whole lot of stuff there,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. It's a
Yeah.
big, big undertaking. Do we know how many carers we have in Ireland?
Yeah, so the I have a figure here. The latest CSO was about 611,000.
Wow.
But we would think that that's higher, John, because a lot of people, and that's including, sorry, over 15. We think there's a lot of people who don't actually identify as a carer, but they
Yeah,
are actually carers. So it's probably a lot more than that.
right.
Yeah.
And do we know what amount go back into the workplace? Not yet.
No, we don't
Right.
know that. But what we do know, I mean, in fairness, look, the government, I have to say, is quite supportive of carers staying in work and being supported in going back to work. And so, like, there are a number of initiatives, like, and we can talk about those. But and even for people, like for a carer who wants to go back to work, it's very important for people who are able to, to go back that they are supported. Yeah.
It's very important for them.
Mm.
Um, where did the idea to match up together on this particular project come from?
As Jacqueline was saying, John, we've been, obviously both projects, the On with Training and Employment Building Brighter Future and the Re-emerge are both funded by the Department of Social Protection through the Dormant account. So we are pretty much delivering very similar projects, and we've been knowing each other from collaborating in the past, and working together. I actually used to work with Jacqueline and Carers Alliance
Okay,
before.
good.
So there is definitely links and connection in there, but ultimately we have the same goal, supporting family carers return into education, training, and employment. And really, we see the bigger picture now. We see that there is a very much need in supporting employers at the same time, and bring that awareness of these talent, that we have this part of the population which is a family cares. The statistics do speak and said that 1 in 9 employees in Ireland currently are family carers, and that projection is then in 2030, 1 in 5 would be a family carer. So
Wow.
that's huge,
Mm.
John. So that's why we came together. It's like we know these numbers. We know we have these talent group, very talented, skilled, workforce people. So how can we support them best?
Right. And we're talking about across all facets of employment.
Yes,
Right.
absolutely. Because
We
again,
are.
like it's massive. People are trained in different area. They had experience in working in different industries. So we're looking, on a full spectrum.
Okay. Are employers included in all this?
Yeah, so I think Sarah kind of mentioned it earlier. So there's two real aims of the project, John, and the first one is to kind of support employers in creating workplaces that are carer friendly. And the second one then is to raise awareness of what carers need when they are in work. And I think like so it's 1 in 9 people working at the moment is also a carer. And it'll be 1 in 5, as Sarah said, by 2030. So we're talking about employers, organizations where they already have carers in there. And then we're also talking about them employing more people who are carers. And employers are generally, I suppose, look, generally are supportive. But I think they're like, this isn't going away. This
Yeah.
is, by 2030, it's going to be 1 in 5. And so if employers, apart from it being, I suppose, the socially responsible thing to do, like if employers want to keep staff and attract staff and stop kind of turnover, they really do need to create more flexible environments. And I think there's a lot more work to be done there. And some employers are very good at it, John, and others maybe they don't know how or what carers need. And that's where we can help them in terms of, so Sarah and I can like tell you like off the top of our heads what what they could do. Like, for example, anybody on a carer's allowance can only work 18 and a half hours a
Yeah.
week. And that is like, it's a fixed, that's not flexible. And you see an awful lot of part-time jobs being advertised for 20 hours or 21 and a half.
Yeah.
And that's the first thing is to really highlight to employers, is there any way that you could make that 18 and a half because like anything above that, you're discounting the whole of the carer population of those who can only work. And there's an awful lot of skill and talent in there that is literally being omitted. So it's little things like that. It's about embedding kind of carer-centric policies formally so having carers mentioned in policies, having a carer-friendly policy formally written down. And then you have informal, so you have formal, informal, and then the culture. That's the formal one. The 18 and a half hour contracts. The informal one would be really about kind of ad hoc. Maybe, an emergency appointment comes up and you have to bring someone to it and having a chat with your manager. So it doesn't need to go up the chain through the formal policy. It can be done kind of, informally and you have the support of your colleagues. And then the workplace culture is a big one, John.
Yeah.
You have to have a culture where carers it's normalized. And to be honest with you, it will be like, this isn't something that's going to happen in the future. It's happening already. Caring employees is becoming more normalized. It's becoming more normal that people are going home to a caring role. And so it's really to kind of make that more open. So people, like, currently, there's a lot of invisibility around it. People are afraid to mention it. They're afraid to mention maybe if they have to bring someone to an appointment in case there's a bit of backlash. They might, and then they take leave and they go absent or they maybe call in sick. So it's really, look, there is a lot of work to be done there. And I think generally employers, because it benefits them at the end of the day,
Yeah.
will be supportive towards it. So it's really just about collaborating with them and talking about it and having these conversations and just bringing it all out, and open into the open.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
important, isn't it? I mean, you have to get a buy-in from employers. You have to get a buy-in from carers into your project. What if I was a
Yes.
carer and I've been caring for 15 years and I'm no longer a carer? What do I need what are the basics I need to get back into employment?
Well, we support, and the re-emerger will be very similar. Like we do support former carers as well, because as Jacqueline mentioned, one of the common challenge that we've seen is the confidence.
Yeah.
So especially, if you've been caring, as you said, for 15 years, you're not caring anymore and you want to return. So where do you start? And the first usually is we're building up a confidence. So then you feel comfortable in going back and explain your gap in a CV, because you will naturally have a gap in your CV. So it is really to just reach out to both of our programs. We do provide personalized support. So we really meet the family carers where they're at and we bring them where they want to be. As Jacqueline
Yeah.
said, it's a journey, so we set up goals, realistic goals really, and it might be that, you want to upskill. Or it might be that, you want to go back to the same that you were doing prior your caring. But, we'll guide you through, and we provide one-to-one support. We provide guidance, and hopefully we'll bring you where you want to be.
Very good. And what about
And
things like interviews? I mean, the actual basic interview, a carer may
yeah,
not have done an interview for
yeah,
25, 30 years.
yeah. And again, we would meet them where they're at, John, and talk them through. Like, we would help them with cover letter, and talk them through the interview. And also, like, it's really important to point out here that carers have an awful lot of skills that they often don't acknowledge, or even they're not
Yeah.
aware of it. And these are skills that any organization literally like need in abundance. Things like They've learned how to be very flexible. They've learned how to be very adaptable. You know, the way schedules can change at very short notice. They've learned they're amazing at advocating because they've had to do it for their
Yeah.
loved one, you know, and advocating for their needs with professionals, with different, you know, with professionals and lay people, and you know, ethics and learning medical terminology, and the whole advocation process through all of that. They're excellent as well at like time management and dealing with maybe challenging behavior. So they have a whole skill set that they are unaware of. So we would really highlight that to them, and that this is something you have to offer, you know, and that these are skills that really need to be pointed out to an employer, that you have been extremely busy learning skills that maybe you might not have had you not been a carer, you know, and it's about really building up that confidence and owning that gap. And not, because a lot of people are like almost like, or people, you know, carers are invisible, and it's not being kind of, it's very much being confident to own what I've been doing, the skills I have been doing, and how in many ways it has been, look, it can be a very challenging role and very rewarding, but it can also be very profound in that, you know, carers learn what's important very quickly in life. And so they have a perspective that maybe others don't have. And all of these things are incredibly valuable to an employer.
Yeah.
And so
What
we
about,
yeah,
sorry to
no,
interrupt
you
you.
go ahead. So we would just chat with carers about how to bring that forward into an interview.
What
Yeah.
about negative reactions from other people when I go into work having been a carer?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's, you can take this one, sir, sir, if you like.
No, that's fine. That's one of the things then we will bring with this initiative, the Care in Workplace initiative, is to break the stigma of caring, so it's bringing that awareness into your organization from, HR management perspective. We provide presentations or, resources, and at management level as well. We do believe is a system. Then that's what Jacqueline was saying. The culture has to change,
Mm,
because ultimately, it's something natural. A lot of people do care. It could be for an elderly, um, you know, parent, could be for a spouse, could be for a child. There are so many aspects of caring, and we're trying to normalize caring really, and as well in the workplace. So we will, we do run, with our project, we do run like a clinics, like mocks interview clinics, and really is just bringing back that language, is supporting family carers to use the right language, to express their needs and to bring up their identity, who they are and what they do. That is, ultimately they're saving a lot of money to the government by caring,
Yeah.
because, it's an unpaid work. So just owning that, and be confident in what they do and be proud of.
mm,
Obviously.
Yeah.
mm,
Now, it's a very important project you're involved in.
mm.
Is it a full-time project? Is there an end game?
It
Um,
is.
well,
It is a very much full-time project. There's been a
yeah,
lot of work
a lot of
involved.
work. Yeah,
Yes.
and we launched it last week. But so this, look, I think there is no end game with this, John, because
Right.
the landscape is changing, and as I said, 1 in 5 employees by 2030 is going to be a carer. And I think it's important to point out that, like, when this is about, I have to emphasize, this is really about working and supporting employers as well. And it's about showing them or demonstrating, because I mean, all of the evidence does show that if you have a carer supportive workplace, and that normalized, your productivity increases, the bottom line is good for you. And and like, it costs an awful lot nowadays. I haven't got the latest figures to train a new staff member. So it really is about holding on to the employees that you have who are carers, and attracting the best person for the job who might be a carer. And so I don't know. there is no end game. This
Yeah.
is going to run for as long as organizations and carers exist. And we have put an awful lot of work into it, but I think that, there will be an awful lot of benefit to both employers and to working carers. And then, sorry, I have to, I'll stop now, but just to say again, like, I think it's important as well to highlight to employers that like caring knows no boundaries, and it can very often, the vast majority of cases, it happens overnight, and people, they're not expecting it. It literally lands on at their doorstep. It can happen to the CEO tomorrow, or it can happen to somebody at an entry level job. So it's right throughout, it's from the top to the bottom of the organization. And so, it has to be something that employers are mindful of, and
Yeah.
that they embrace. Yeah.
Very good. Right at the end of the time now, you'd be glad to know.
Oh,
Is there anything else either or both of you would like to say before we finish?
Well,
just yeah, contact
like Jacqueline
details
was just
really.
saying, it's really, we're here to really guide employers, with helpful resources to support family carers in the workplace and really to improve staff retention. Like this is something that is happening now. So really acting now, it is, you are building your future, but it's very important that this is happening now and is embedded. We do have more information on our website. If people want to access, they can access through abiireland.ie, the Caring Workplace Initiative. All the details are there. All our contact details are there. People can contact us anytime. It could be a phone call just for an informal chat. It can be an email, and myself and Jacqueline would be very happy to support whatever needs that they might have. And I don't know if Jacqueline wants to add something else.
I would just add that, I'm a firm believer in kind of a gentle approach as a Sarah. And so, if employers or even carers just want to have a chat, I mean, we're not talking about radical changes here. We're just talking about, a little bit more flexibility, a little bit of understanding and awareness. I think without awareness, really nothing can change. So again, we're not talking about an overhaul of organ. It's just practical, kind of how to work with people and how to just build more supportive, inclusive environments that work for everybody. Because we're at the end of the day, we're all just human beings working together, and what we need is just a more compassionate approach. And so I think it's important to say that it's just, we can start with small steps and we can work from there.
Brilliant. There's
Yeah.
more information on your website also.
Yeah, so we'll have it on the carealliance.ie website under the Reemerge. Yeah. And or even if you will type into Google the Caring Workplace Initiative, Care Alliance or ABI Ireland, should come up.
Very good. Sara,
Yeah.
Jacqueline, thanks for talking to us at Disability Matters.
Thanks so
Thank you,
much for
John.
having us, John.
Our pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.